SLOG FPV. This is the HappyModel Mobula7 HD. I'll show you what's in the box. This is the production version, which I paid for. Comes with some instructions, the Mobula7 HD. It does have a 300 mAh 3S battery, which is nice. It does come with the Vtx Turtle V2 controller board. It does have a bag of parts here, a screwdriver, some extra screws. These props aren't the props that it comes with. I'm not sure. They're quite a bit narrower, quite a bit different. Comes with a prop removal tool. And then what's interesting, it does come with an XT30 to PH 2.0 cable here. So if you wanted to run your tiny Whoop type 1S batteries, you could with this, which is nice. Let's go ahead and quickly go through the specs. I did measure 75 millimeter motor post to motor post. As far as weight, it comes in, let me tar that. It is coming in at 45 grams, 46 grams without the battery. With the 3S battery, it's 71 grams. If you compare that to the Mobula7 standard, it's coming in at 29 grams, so quite a bit heavier than that. So I wouldn't really consider these two very comparable. This is, again, way lighter. It's going to be faster, better suited for freestyle and park flying. This one will be a good park flyer probably, we'll see, but it's quite a bit heavier. This is a real true Cine-Whoop, and I'm not sure what the relationship is between HappyModel and Eachine. It seems like Eachine is the parent company and HappyModel is the subsidiary, or they have some sort of parts agreement, because this frame is really the trash can frame. And in the past, Eachine and HappyModel have shared common parts like canopies and frames. So again, they seem to have some sort of agreement, or one's a subsidiary of the other. But if anybody knows, please comment below. So other things about it, the XT30 connector, it does support 2S and 3S batteries, high voltage. It does have the Crazy Bee F4 Pro V2 all-in-one flight controller, which is the same one that's in the trash can. It does support 6 amp continuous, or I should say 6 amp burst, 5 amp continuous, BL Heli D-Shot 600 support. The motors that it comes with are EX1102 10,000 kV motors. The Vtx Turtle is the standard V2 version of it. It does have a field of view for FPV of 155 degrees. The recording field of view is 170 degrees. I wish Vtx had a different lens. I would actually prefer a narrower lens with a little less fisheye, but maybe eventually they'll come with that. I'm going to be using the FR. This is the FR Sky version, and there's two modes, D8 and D16. I'm hearing a lot on the boards that D8 is still better than D16. They're still having some supposedly issues with running this, binding it in D16 mode for FR Sky. So I will go ahead and bind this at D8. Let's see. It does support Betaflight OSD. That allows you to monitor current, voltage, RSSI. So it supports full telemetry for the FR Sky version and Fly Sky version. The Vtx is switchable between 25 and 200 milliwatts. It does support, again, smart audio, so you can change the Vtx bands, power channels via the OSD. So those are the specs of this, which are pretty nice. If you look at what the competition for this is, I think one of them obviously is the Beta 85X HD. There is the Tiny Leader, which has the, there's an HD version. This is the standard version. I don't have the HD version, but it's very similar to this. Is another Whoop class competition for a Cine-Whoop. And then I think another one are the builds, the Cine-Whoop builds out there, like my build here of the Tomoquad's Whoopee. As you can see, this is one that I built, and I think that's another direct competition of the Mobula7 HD. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and configure this thing and see how well it flies, and we'll give you my thoughts and opinions of this after I get it out and see what the video looks like and how well it flies. So with that, let's quickly go through the changes I made in Betaflight configurator. I pretty much left everything as factory defaults that came from HappyModel. So as far as the setup, the only thing I did was calibrate the accelerometer. Didn't change anything in the ports tab. On the configuration tab, I did change the motor idle throttle value percentage from 4.5 to 5.5. I mean, some people like running motor stop, this turned off. I happen to have it turned on. That was the default. Didn't change that. The other thing I did change is the SPI bus receiver provider from FRSky_X to FRSky_D. The reason why I did that, so I could bind in D8 mode. I was reading on the boards that some people are still having issues with, it's like a fail-safe, where if it's running in D16 mode, they've had issues. So the easy change is to bind it in D8 mode. I've never had a problem with D16 on the F4 like on the trash can, but just to be safe, I went ahead and bound it in D8 mode. In order to do that, you have to do FRSky_D. The only other thing I changed on this tab was turn on the RX Lost and RX Set, because this thing doesn't have a beeper. So I went ahead and turned those on so I could set up a switch as a beacon for lost model and for locating the Mobula7 if I lose it. On the power and battery tab, didn't make any changes on that, left it at defaults. PID tuning, I did put my rates on. The other thing I did change, and this is a personal preference, I did change the feed forward up to 90 and 90. I didn't change the PIDs. I also changed the feed forward transition to 0.3. That's just the way I like it, the feel for doing part flying and freestyle. So those are the settings I normally run. I did change the iTerm relax axis to include yaw, so it's RPY. It was just RP. Then didn't change anything on the receiver tab. It was already set up for RC smoothing filter, so didn't change anything there. As far as my switches, I have a standard configuration. I use aux2 for my arm switch. I do have a mode switch, so I can switch between angle, horizon, and air mode / acro. I normally always run in acro mode, but there are times when I might be flying indoors, or you might want to be proximity flying, catching some HD video, so I do have angle set up. I do have a beeper set up for the D-Shot beacon, and that's on aux3 on that same switch, so that's in the middle position. On that same switch, I have flip over after crash in the up position. So that's the only modes that I have set up. As far as OSD, the only changes I made was warnings and kind of rearranged the display here to my liking. So that was about it. And in the CLI, I went ahead and made some changes on the Vtx settings. I'll show you those right here. I do like turning on low power disarm equal on. The reason why I do that is so you don't overheat the VTX. So when it's disarmed, just sitting, you know, it goes to 25 milliwatts. So that's what I set, and the only change I did in the CLI. So with that, I'm going to go ahead and show you some flight video. I think the Mobula7 HD is a good park flyer. You know, if you're doing some light freestyle, it is great for that. And it's not a Mobula7 standard, but it is actually a very nimble HD Cine-Whoop. So I think they did a good job of you know, putting together a very light frame HD Cine-Whoop. And then also I have included some, you know, proximity flying as well. So with that, I'll go ahead and show you the video I shot, and then close with my final thoughts. So here are my final thoughts on the Mobula7 HD. The pros: it has great video quality for a 75mm Whoop class quad. It's very light as far as a Cine-Whoop at 46 grams as compared to, let's say, the Beta 85X HD or the Whoopie. The other thing that's nice about it, although it's not a Mobula7 standard, it flies surprisingly well, as you can see from my video, for a Cine-Whoop class quad. and I think it does an excellent job if you're wanting to go out and capture HD video, you know, in the park, doing light freestyle type flying. So I think it's a good quad for doing that. It also has an excellent Vtx signal on it. I found that you know, at 200 milliwatts, the video feed was great, and in fact that can be a problem because I was getting low RSSI values, but I was getting a great video feed. So that kind of lulls you into, okay, well, I can fly out further when you know, I started getting mornings that I was getting low RSSI values. So I'd almost recommend running this at 25 milliwatts so you don't get fail safes. But the video quality on this, as far as the video feed, is great. I also like the other pro is the frame and canopy design are well thought out. So let's quickly go through the cons. You can do slow proximity flying with this, but it's harder than, let's say, the Whoop is. For park freestyle, you really need a 3S battery, in my humble opinion, which is hard to come by. The battery selection is very limited for 2S and almost non-existent for 3S, although I did notice that Banggood now has a GNB 300 mAh 3S battery that you can order now. Let's see, flight times on the 3S are not that great. It's approximately around 3 minutes. The other thing that is of concern, the SD card here, let me see if I can get it in to focus, doesn't have the keeper tab, so it could pop out in a crash, so just be aware of that. So again, you know, it doesn't have the little tab that holds the SD card in place. Also, I wish they would have put a beeper on it, because I mean, this thing flies fairly quick, and you know, using the motors to beep is okay, but a real beeper like what's on the standard Mobula7 I think is much better because it's louder. And I think lastly, like I've already talked about, the receiver will limit the range. As I was getting, you know, again, great video at 200 milliwatts, but was getting RSSI low warnings. So that's something, again, to be aware of. So overall, I think it's a definite thumbs up. Now I'm sure everybody's gonna be asking, well, which one would I pick between the three here? Well, it really depends on what you wanna do. If you're looking for a fast 75 millimeter class Cine-Whoop that flies more like a Beta 75X and can take HD video of your freestyle moves, then I would pick the Mobula7 HD. If you're looking for a tight proximity Cine-Whoop that can navigate through tree branches, I would go with the Whoopie. If you're looking for an all-around Cine-Whoop that can navigate through, you know, up through streams, longer distance, you want something you want to take to the mountains for aerial videography, hands down, I would get the Beta 85X. It is something that you could use if you are going to get into a little more precarious situations, and it's something that you want to capture some good videography, but you wouldn't want to do that same sort of route with, let's say, a Mavic. So this is a good solution, I think, for mountain flying. If you're, like, again, going up a stream bed and you have overhanging branches, this thing, I would take this. For more long distance flying, I would recommend this. So with that, I appreciate you guys tuning in to my channel. Thanks.